Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about Season 1, Episode 3 of Star Trek Starfleet Academy. The episode was called Vitus Reflux, and the episode starts with the War College students playing a prank on the Starfleet cadets, who, while they were heading towards or just coming out of the shower in a locker room, were transported by the War College cadets involuntarily to various public parts of the school, wearing either just a towel or in their underwear, etc., which of course was a big chaotic deal. Later, Caleb asks Jaden to distract a group of War College students so that he can talk to Tamira. While Jaden runs interference, the two have a moment while shooting a few hoops. So much of a moment that Tamira's neural regulation collar turns from blue to red, suggesting that his proximity and what he was saying were having a profound effect on her. Chancellor Ake counsels her students, and after they're beaten very badly by the War College cadets in a laser tag-like activity, during which the Academy team's various strengths and weaknesses came to light, as did a bit of a rivalry between Genesis and Darum, as both wanted to be team captain, but only one, Darum, ended up becoming it, at least initially, though he ends up transferring the captaincy to Genesis when he realizes that she's better suited for the role than he is. As a result of the Chancellor's counseling, the Academy cadets put a plan into motion, which involved Jaden, who's a medical student, using DNA collected from the War College Dean by Durin to create a copy of the Dean's eyeball to bypass the security in his office or quarters so that they could turn off the security protocols and then work their way into the dorms of the War College cadets to sabotage all their Vitus reflux plants, causing them to grow rapidly in the student dorm, forcing all the students to run for their lives into the adjoining courtyard, also in their underwear and various states of undress. As that event was unfolding, Chancellor Ake arrives, as does the Dean of the War College, who is forced to call off the sort of war games they've been having, because any anger or negative words can endanger the maturation of the plants, which of course would be a violation of regulations relative to the plant, which is a protected species. The episode ends with Tamira using her intuition to convince Caleb that he finally likes being part of the Academy. She even gives him a little smooch. Later, Genesis gives Caleb his Starfleet Letterman jacket. He accepts, showing that he finally has let down his guard a bit and is trying to be part of a team or, a family. And that's where the episode ended. And that's a pretty basic breakdown of the plot. There are other moments in there that lend themselves to the ongoing story of the development of these characters. We learn a little bit about Darum's family, who apparently isn't very nice to him unless he's the top, guy at everything. And we learned that Chancellor Ake was a bit of a prankster back in her day at the Academy. We learned that Tignataro and the Cadet Master are in a relationship. And we get a little bit closer look at the War College and the War College students than we did in the first couple of episodes. So while that breakdown kind of just gives you the major notes, there are some minor notes that occur in the story, or more subtle notes, character moments and whatnot that occur in the story as well, and some reveals, as I said. What did I think of the episode? Well, once again, I have to say, as I did in my review of the first two episodes, that if you're someone who's not a fan of young adult shows and media, you're not going to like this show, because it is unabashedly a young adult, or as they say, YA piece of media. It just is that. So as a result, what you have is a group of characters that are very unrefined, just like you would expect college students to be in a show about any real-life college. And the result of that is that they behave in very un-Starfleet-like ways, what we're used to as far as what Starfleet officer behavior would be. So if you can only view this show through the lens of Star Trek, it's going to rub you the wrong way. It just is, because it's very different from what Star Trek has ever been before. Just like Lower Decks was, just like Prodigy was. And because of the particular way in which it's very different, people who are not into young adult dramas with youthful characters behaving like undisciplined youthful people and being highly emotional and often irrational, it's going to rub you the wrong way. It just is. I happen to like young adult drama stuff. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that years ago because I didn't realize that it was the case, but Looking back over the years of media that I've consumed and enjoyed, I realized that I do in fact like young adult dramas. And so this show is working for me on that level. I think the character stuff that they're doing is very good. Look, I was a young adult. I am the father to two young adults. So, I think I identify with certain aspects of what these characters are going through as young adults on this show and on other shows. So it works for me on that level. I think they're doing interesting things with these characters in that regard, and I'm enjoying it. I also tend to like media that's about characters in high tension situations, combat situations, military situations where they have to be a team and overcome an obstacle on the regular, which wouldn't be the case in just a show about college kids, I mean, obstacles, yes, but not like, life and death, like you would have on a show about students in a military organization, which Starfleet is. So I'm liking it in that aspect because, there were some intense scenes when they're going through this laser tag type game. So the show is working for me on that level. I continue to like the Holly Hunter character, Chancellor Ake, even though she's very different from your typical Starfleet officer. But I find that the way they're going about it to be endearing. She's unorthodox. She's a little eccentric. And I like it because at the same time, I think she is grounded. And I think there is a method to the madness with the character so far. So I'm liking it. Other people, not so much from the reviews I'm seeing online. And I get that. But it's working for me. So I'm okay with it. I'm enjoying the Tignataro character being part of the show. I like that character. I liked the Cadet Master character more in this episode than the previous two, though I still have issues with that whole thing. So I do have reasons for liking the show, and I do like it. But now that I've mentioned, again, the fact that I have issues with the Cadet Master character, let me get into some of the issues I have with the show that I hope maybe they'll change going forward, though I don't have a lot of reason to believe they will. I don't like the fact that these people speak in 21st century vernacular. It's one thing to throw in a word here or there that is like a catchphrase of the 21st century or jargon of the 21st century, but it's way overdone on this show to the point that it makes the show seem not like Star Trek at all. I mean, on the original series, Dr. McCoy was always saying, damn it, and characters on various Star Trek shows would say hell. In Star Trek 3, Scotty says, up your shaft. And Kirk says, double dumbass. In Star Trek 4, Spock says, go to hell. In Star Trek 6, and Data says, oh shit, I think, in Generations. So it's not unheard of, but it's way overdone on this show. And in those moments, the Romulan character from the War College in this episode flips off the Starfleet cadets, gives the middle finger. So in those moments, it becomes more of a generic YA drama to me than a YA drama set in the Star Trek universe. And it takes you out of it. And you say, why is this happening on a Star Trek show in the 32nd century? It's ridiculous, and they shouldn't be doing it. That really gets on my nerves, and I really hope they stop doing it in, the coming episodes. And, they also do stuff that flies in the face of canon. In this episode, the Vulcan cadet at the War College says that they're going to keep doing pranks on the Starfleet cadets because it's fun. Now, no Vulcan would say that, right? Unless they'd completely abandoned in the 32nd century all logic. And, we have no reason to believe that that's the case. So why would they have that character of all the characters say, we're going to do it because it's fun? Like, it's not necessary. Other stuff that they do that doesn't comport with prior established lore has to do with the photonic character among the cadets, who I think is a very cool character. I like the character. She's very fun. But they do weird stuff with her. Like, why is she in the locker rooms with them? Like, she doesn't change clothes in the traditional sense, right? She just changes her appearance with her program. So why would she even be in the locker rooms? She gets transported out of the locker room in the opening prank and ends up underwater. And then you can see her making bubbles underwater as if she has oxygen in her lungs, which she wouldn't even have, right? Lungs. So what was that about? Why did they do that? And how do you use a transporter to relocate a photonic being? Is that even possible in Star Trek? I don't remember if on Voyager the Doctor could be transported by the transporter. I think he just materialized wherever on the ship there were holo emitters until he got the mobile device. And so he was stuck in sickbay basically until then. So if he could have used the transporter to get around, why wouldn't they have done? I guess it's the 32nd century, but like the concept of a hologram is still the same. It's light. It's photonic. How do you use a transporter on it? So I didn't get that. That didn't make sense. Why did they do that? I very much missed the Doctor in this episode while we're talking about him. He wasn't in it, and I think that was kind of a bummer. We also didn't see Paul Giamatti's character, which, you don't want to see him every episode, but he was such a presence in the first episode that he kind of was missed by me in this one. They didn't talk at all in this episode about continuing to look for Caleb's mother, which there again, you don't want that to be ever present necessarily, but to totally ignore that plot line at the same time seemed weird. And it just made this episode feel kind of disconnected from what we've seen before and what I assume was going to come after. But I don't think that took away from it all that much. I think it was a good episode that established a lot of, things about these characters that are going to be important going forward in their character development. So I, again, appreciated it in that way. I think it did a good job of advancing the development of these, characters in this young adult drama. So in that way, I think it was good. It's just that on the other half, on the back half, of all of that, they're doing this crazy stuff that makes it not very Star Trek. So my hope going forward would be that they tone down all the stuff that's not very Star Trek and that doesn't comport with what's come before and just focus on the other things that they're doing that I think are working. And this show will continue to be better than Discovery as it has been so far. So again, in summary, if you don't like young adult dramas, you're not going to like this show because it's very young adult angsty driven and it can be goofy at times. This episode had a lot of goofy stuff in it because they're behaving like college kids, and so that's going to lend itself to goofiness. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, you're not going to like this. If you can't make room for that kind of stuff on a Star Trek show, then you're not going to like it. But I think if we look at the history of Star Trek, we're going to see that there are moments where Picard would talk about stuff he got up to, shenanigans that he got up to when he was in the Academy. And other characters have talked about that stuff, if I'm not mistaken. So, now we're seeing it in, a week to week way. So I'm fine with that aspect of it. I just think they need to tone down the stuff that makes it very much not Star Trek, the modern, the 21st century vernacular, the uncharacteristic behavior of, Vulcans and Romulans and so forth. And I think it will be fine. And I say that even, while again acknowledging the fact that the Chancellor character is very atypical for a Starfleet sort of commanding officer, but it's working for me. I like it. I think she's quirky and unconventional and unorthodox, and I'm enjoying it. I just wish they would stop doing all the things that separate it from what Star Trek has been before by using all this 21st century sort of vernacular. Anyway, starting to repeat myself, so that means it's time for me to go. I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.